Magic, Black Mamba, King James, Air, Money Sniper, Greek Freak, Splash Brothers. What do all of these have in common? Well, if you said basketball, you would be correct. This is the sport that captured my heart in the early 80s. In fact, I still find myself waking up at ungodly hours to watch live games from the NBA. I even remember playing basketball in high school, point guard to be exact. I used to put up some of the most impressive stats for my school. My son Cedric fell in love with the sport at the age of 15. Unfortunately for him, the school he attended did not have basketball as one of their main sports. Instead, it was the usual: rugby, soccer, cricket. The school had 2 basketball courts, but unfortunately, they really weren't in the best of shape. Cedric managed to gather some of his schoolmates together and they started playing basketball on those dilapidated courts. They had no coach, no funding, and so he decided to coach the team himself. And the funny thing is, he learned all his coaching skills from, wait for it, PlayStation. They managed to enter the team unofficially into a tournament comprising of 14 schools. And to everyone's surprise, they came fourth. It was after that tournament that the school employed a coach and refurbished their courts. It took innovation, invention, and intentionality. That same year, Cedric won Basketball Player of the Year. Kobe Bryant. One of the unique skills that Kobe had was his excellent pivot skills, used to circumvent or navigate past a defender. In the game of basketball, a pivot is when a player keeps one foot on the ground without changing position on the floor and utilizes the other foot to rotate the body. This is done to improve position while in possession of the basketball. Having established a pivot, you may, within defined limits, pass, move, dribble, or even shoot the ball. Pivoting allows a player to move into a scoring position without causing a travel violation. You can also take advantage of your pivot to maintain your balance, defend the ball, or get away from your opponent. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought about its own challenges, especially in the business world. In fact, if there are 2 words that have highly irritated me and overused during this time, they are unprecedented and pivot. In business, pivoting, in its simplest definition, is a change of direction. A business is established with one specific idea or a purpose, and at inception, it is inspired by innovation, driven by intentionality, and made unique by its invention. But as the business gains momentum and grows, that original idea might not work due to a change in market forces or a crisis. It is then requisite on business leaders to revise existing strategies and find new ways of reimagining a future that is presently unknown and constantly evolving. Pivoting, that wretched word. But what does pivoting mean and do for you in your business? As in basketball, it keeps you rooted to your core strategy while seeking to reboot your business. The problem I have with this approach is that it keeps you rooted to your core strategy or your pivot, and it restricts your ideas and ideation so that every time you venture into innovation, you find yourself drawn back to where you began. And this renders your imagination and your creativity improbable and ineffective. During times of wild and quick change, there is a challenge in adapting temporary survival and vital long-term goals. And as we enter into every new year, we are past the underlying pivot stories that emerged in a crisis, wherein vodka producers started making hand sanitizer and clothing manufacturers started making face masks as an afterthought. These were obviously praiseworthy pivot stories that helped organizations pivot while supporting the interests of everybody. However, the majority of these were transient changes. Long-term goals require innovation in response to a crisis constraint. And this will enable you to develop and design more resilient business models. Business models are not static. They are living organisms that evolve and adapt to their surroundings. The pandemic has shown us that businesses that evolve are truly resilient businesses. Eventually, our goal should not be to outlast the pandemic in the hopes of returning to business as usual, but rather to leverage the opportunities to design more resilient business models and more innovative strategies that have an outside-in focus. Pivoting is an old approach. Innovation, now that's the new plot twist, and it is even better. Many productive and renowned organizations in the past have innovated to become genuinely successful. What makes a crisis situation different is the sense of urgency and vulnerability. In a crisis circumstance, we need to demonstrate that innovation trumps pivoting. Intelligent entrepreneurs are taking advantage of the latest technologies rather than conventional pivoting to change activities and adjust to the new, dare I say, next normal. And this brings me to the point that I'd really like to accentuate today, and that is innovation is invention intentionally applied. So, let me take you back to the basketball court and share 4 innovation stories from the NBA. First came the shot clock, introduced in 1954 in the NBA as a way of increasing scoring while reducing stalling tactics that were very common before its inception. The shot clock has been credited with an increase in fan interest in the then fledgling league and has since been adopted in major leagues throughout the world. And then came the basketball sneaker, Converse's Chuck Taylor All-Star, the first basketball-specific sneaker. Introduced in 1917, it comprised mostly of canvas and rubber. And it wasn't until the 1980s, with the introduction of Nike's Air Jordan 1 and the many that followed, when everybody, from the casual fan to the dedicated hooper, became enamored with basketball shoes. I mean, you walk into any shoe store today and you will find packed from the floors to the ceiling various types of sneakers with eye-catching colorways and silhouettes. Driven by the signature products of the brightest NBA stars, did you know that the basketball sneaker industry is highly lucrative? In fact, in 1920, the value of the sneaker market was $78 billion according to Statista.com. And then came the breakaway rim. A breakaway rim is a basketball rim that bends slightly downwards when a player dunks the ball and then snaps back into its original horizontal position when the player releases it. This allows a player to dunk the ball without smashing the backboard and also reduces the possibility of wrist injury. The breakaway rim was invented in the mid-1970s and has become an essential element of high-level basketball. And then came the Orlando bubble of 2020. The NBA partnered with Microsoft Teams to create a virtual viewing experience. Using Microsoft Teams' new Together mode to place fans together in a virtual experience during live games literally transported fans into a new world. The technology uses artificial intelligence to segment your head and your shoulders and place you together with other fans in a virtual space. This new Together mode, combined with 17-inch tall LED screens that wrapped around basketball arenas, literally placed fans courtside next to players. Fans were able to react in real time, and players could see and hear those reactions. These virtual stands included more than 300 fans sitting side by side in Microsoft Teams in a virtual space. What we see in these 4 examples is innovation mindsets that compel agility. We see the invention of new products and new technologies to improve the sport and increase fan attendance. We see the rapid implementation of these inventions that inspire a rapid uptake by consumers. Pivoting is great because it reimagines what already exists, where we make a connection with concepts and ideas and past experiences to create something new from something old. But its flaw is in the fact that we could be pivoting from bad premises to create new bad beginnings. Innovation, on the other hand, is akin to creative imagination, where we make a connection with new thoughts altogether. This new thought, this new plan or new concept comes out of seemingly nowhere as a hunch, a moment of inspiration, and is totally inexplicable. It is this aspect of innovation, while risky because of its unknown nature, that supersedes pivoting. Innovation is the new plot twist. It defines the next normal and the normal after that.